Well, hello, everybody. I'm John O'Loughlin. Welcome to McDuff Lives. And hello to everyone in the chat room. I see we have a few people joined already, and it's 11:03 in the morning here at Mystery Island on the east coast of the United States on January 20th, 2023. Now, the image that I posted for the thumbnail of today's show is my father and his father, Tom Sr. And you can see Tom Sr. dressed in a very dapper suit jacket and fedora, and uh, looking at Tom Jr. in his U.S. Navy uniform. It's got to be in 1944 or 45. Because he is wearing the uniform of a Lieutenant JG, which he was appointed on April 1st, 1944. That means that the picture was taken after the kamikaze hit in December of 1943, right? Or am I backwards now? Nope, I'm mistaken. Nope, it's before the kamikaze hit in December of 1944. Right. So I'm puzzled as to when and how that picture was taken. Did my uh, did Grandpa go out to the West Coast and meet him somewhere, or did he get a shore leave? I'll have to check his records. But that picture, shows him as a young officer on USS Nashville on some type of shore leave. And the reason that I put it up today is because it's Grandpa's birthday. Tom Sr. was born on January 20th, I think 1898, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. Anyway, and so our friend Mark Kulak, no, it was David Underdown that mentioned Cardinal Gibbons, the Catholic cardinal, at one time the Cardinal of Baltimore, other times other places, and also the Chancellor of Catholic University in Washington, D.C., which now I'm going to, as I've done once before, show you his signature just above the microphone there. That's Cardinal Gibbons. And I apologize that this apparently got wrinkled or warped sometime in history, but so there it is. Grandpa's Catholic University diploma. His degree was in law, and that, of course, is part of the tragedy because he never practiced law. He never passed the bar and apparently had some kind of a spiritual crisis and turned to drinking. And that, is part of the tragedy of our family. But the good side is that he became sober after 40 or 50 years of drinking. He became sober in 1956 or 7, I believe, and stayed sober the rest of his life. And, I never saw him drunk. I'm so proud to know that, I found in my own life that I don't drink safely. I tend to break out in in difficulties. So I've also chosen not to be a drinker in my life. And the main amazing thing about this diploma is 1919. Okay. And you've probably heard a little bit of my family of origin story where my grandfather's grandfather and grandmother were the immigrants, and they came over in the 1860s, early 1860s, so sometime during the Civil War. Haven't found the ship, haven't found the date yet. Possibly we will still find that, but at any rate, from the west coast of Ireland, a little area in Western Clare around the famous, what's now famous as the Music Haven Doolin, where ultimately I met Michael Russell and learned some wonderful music from him. But this is the tracing of our male line genetic heritage that goes back to the ancient O'Loughlin kingdom that existed in that same area for hundreds of years before the British conquest came along. And without going into detail, it's important to me that my great great grandparents spoke Irish, were from that west part of Ireland. It never really succumbed, never got conquered. And I think that's part of our personality that I've never tolerated bullies. I've always been willing to do anything to make sure that I didn't end up under the thumb of some bully. And there's something in that, something maybe you understand it as the Irish, I've got that Irish in me. And certainly my grandpa had it. So anyway, January 20th, happy birthday to Tom Sr., Grandpa. Yes, well, let's say hello to folks. Scroll up to the top here. Oh, Kathy Sue. Good morning, dear. Where's Olivia? There she is. There she is. Saying hello to Kathy Sue. And it happens. Ghost Creeper, David, Heidi, Leslie, David, Lynn, all, Jimmy, Jimmy again, and Laura. All the sun. And I think Raz Vedka spoke Irish and they could dance. Yeah. You got that Irish in you too, huh? Okay. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, just don't go there with us. We have strict um boundaries. Pardon me. Yeah, sober minded. That you can have fun without drinking though, That's the secret that some people never find out, sadly. Yeah. County Cork, my dad's side Irish straight back. Yeah. Yeah, me too. Dad's father, of course, was the O'Loughlin's, and that's the old kingdom. And it is really a journey to have seen this summer when I was over in Ireland and traveling around with our great mentor. Um, to really sit down with the Irish people. I had a great session with the local folklore and genealogy person for that area, and she was very helpful. And with some more reading and studying and being there, I understand what's happened is that that Celtic kingdom in the north of County Clare, right on Galway Bay, was an independent kingdom, and they were always at war with somebody else. The Irish kingdoms were often at war with each other. And then there would also be wars of succession within the kingdom. So you would find that a brother would kill a brother. And so this is not your optimal civilization by any means, but they were at least independent. And they had laws, they had the Brehon laws, and they had the rules of, what happens if you hurt somebody? What happens if somebody hurts you? and uh, specialists, the Brehon lawyers, specialists in poetry and history. The chief would be divided into the war chief and the elders, and the war chief doesn't have the power unless there's war. Other than that, it's more of a communal decision type of situation. But at any rate, I wanted to just describe the idea of having that line, that O'Loughlin line, having once been free, independent, and able to hold its own, and then the overwhelming force over three or four different invasions, from the Tudors, the Cromwells, uh, uh, the rebellions that got put down, and the idea of what was called surrender and grant, where eventually in the 16th century, the O'Loughlin had to surrender his title or else get totally wiped out, and so they had to surrender their title to the O'Brien, which was the overlord of Clare, and then the O'Brien had already surrendered his title to the Queen of England. So legally, then the structure starts to become English instead of Irish, and that has no never stopped. It's still very, very English in its nature of the government and particularly the financial system. Yet the people, are still of that sense of Irish and freedom. And 100 years ago, they rose up. They sure did. They made their own bullets. They were able to do remarkable things against the British Empire. And so they're sort of mostly free right now, but when it comes to the money side of things, they're still under the empire, unfortunately. As we all are. So are we as Americans. But getting to get back to Grandpa, and Grandpa was the first O'Loughlin to go to college in his line of O'Loughlins. And so that degree, in a sense, represents a kind of a rebounding of the O'Loughlins from their former glory into, centuries of being reduced to serfdom, literally. And I have found the little village where my ancestors were from, and it's not even a village, it's just a couple of houses uh, on a map. I haven't been there, but it appears to have been very small and very poor, and the people were just, you know, living like serfs, as far as I can tell, um, between the time of the maybe 1700s, 1800s, and then the famine and or I should say the genocide, as our good friend Chris Fogarty corrects me. And it really was a genocide, as history shows. So we coming back, right? The O'Loughlin's. Yeah, yeah. If authority is genuine and really on our side, then I respect it, But and I even respect it just because it is the authority, because it stands for the past. It stands for the civilization that has been built up over thousands of years. And I don't want to destroy everything just because I object to something that they say or even something that they do. But as I said before, there comes a time we do have our boundaries, and our personal integrity and freedom is essential. Yeah, Laura, you're like me. That's the way I've always been. All right. Well, guess you get in the Marines, you're going to have a few mementos, right? Anyway, glad you're here, Razvedka, and thanks for your service. Oh, the O'Donnells. Oh my God. Um, Green-eyed Irish, a descendant of the O'Donnell clan. The O'Donnell clan was along with the O'Neills, the last two big clans that rose up, and that is the uh, called the 9 Years' War, and it happened in the 1590s to about 1601 or two, kind of coincident with the end of Queen Elizabeth's reign. And yeah, they lost, but they sure did rise up, and that's part of the tradition is we honor the people that actually stood up, you know, against the power. Hey, Miss Hunt, yeah, don't you love Claire Daly? God, I love to watch that lady speak, and powerful, powerful speaker. I don't know why the rest of the world doesn't latch on to a great voice like that. She's just tremendous. She's in the European Parliament, representing Ireland, of course. Oh, Corky, you're a lucky man and happy man. That's good. If you're happy, say so. I'm happy. Smile. Let the world know that at least somebody in it is happy. If you're happy, let it shine. I'm feeling good. I had just a whirlwind of talking to a new service provider called Content Safe, and I learned about him from James Corbett, who did a show just introducing him, and the idea just hit me so well. I said, "Wow, I've got to reach out to this guy. I don't know how much it would cost, but what he does is he uploads your videos to different services, and I'm telling you that that is the biggest time-consuming issue in producing these videos is once you have it, if I broadcast it on YouTube and Facebook, well, I need to archive it somewhere. You can't rely that it's always going to be there, especially with YouTube. Facebook's pretty good. They don't take it down very much. I've never had one taken down from Facebook. But no, I can't rely on Facebook for an archive, so I've got BitChute. But honestly, I mean, although BitChute is rated the number one or two alternatives to YouTube, the uploading process is very iffy. And although they have an automatic uploader that you can hook up to, sometimes it doesn't work. And if I don't know it's not working, then I have a bunch of shows that haven't got uploaded, and then I have to spend an hour or two uploading them by hand. And you know, now I'm going to be expanding to Rumble and also probably uh, Odyssey as well, and looking into Rockfin with Garland Nixon's on Rockfin, and I think that's a pretty cool looking platform as well. But since I upgraded my StreamYard account to professional level, which is $50 a month, I now can broadcast to 8 different services. So why not? So this is a lot of technical work that we're going to do, and I've entered into a agreement with ContentSafe.co. You guys ought to check them out if you're broadcasters, because Corbett is pleased with them. Richard Grove is associated with them, um, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a, a great expansion of reach, and that's what I want to do this year. I want to get more reach. I want people to understand who my dad was, what he did during his life, what they did to him and what they're doing to this country as a result. If you see it in one man's life, then hopefully you can see if they're willing to do it to him, they're willing to do it to the whole country. No safety in those backup channels, I promise. Don't plant seeds without how great everything is going somewhere. Well, I'm not quite sure I follow you, but the idea, hopefully one day I'll be able to afford my own servers, and I can't do that right now. And so I'm going to ideally have everything on 4 or 5 different archives. That's the plan with this company. And then if one of them or another one takes something down or disappears or has technical problems, then the company will notice it and let me know. And also, they archive themselves, so they will have a copy. Um, is this company going to be there forever? Is it as solid as we used to say Fort Knox? I have no idea, but he seems very, very competent and sincere. And like I say, some good folks have been working with him. So I'm jumping in and see what happens. It's exciting. So one of these days soon, you'll see me on Rumble, Odyssey, and Rockfin. I do hope. Don't know what the M word is, but glad you smile. Peace in the spirit. Isn't that important? That's so important. Like I was saying yesterday, we need moral leadership, and that means leadership that is confident in goodness, confident that, yeah, there's all kinds of stuff going on, but essentially, people are good. The world is a great place. The biosphere has been magically created for us, and we love it, and life is good. I love my family. I love my community. I love my nation, and I love everybody in the world. I have no reason not to. And they beat the drums of fear, anger, hate, create conflicts. But like I've been saying about the Laos war, the Laos drug war, I should say, the Laos drug labs, the drug poppy growing, the morphine labs, and then the actual refinement to high grade heroin that happened in Laos during the late 50s and early 60s, and then on into the 70s. And how do I know if it ever stopped? I don't know. That was the subject of my dad's career at Saxa from 1962 to 1971 when he died. Oh, mask, M-A-S-K. Okay. Yeah. Most people are unable to lead themselves. That goes along with a comment, David, that I picked up from Dennis Rancourt this week. And Dennis Rancourt, that's Rancourt, is a PhD uh, physicist and statistician who has devoted his time to analyzing the death statistics, pardon me, and he calls it ACD, or all cause deaths. And by analyzing the differences between like Canada and the US, or one state and another state, or Australia and India, for instance, he can see statistical truths that stand out. And he's been able to state in his very firm opinion that there wasn't a pandemic, that there were a bunch of different breakouts in different places in the world, but somehow they didn't cross national boundaries or state boundaries or neighborhoods even sometimes, and that, it's just not believable that there was this disease that just floated around in the air and went everywhere. Fascinating reporting, and if you want to catch up with him, Twitter is a good place. Anyway, Dennis Rancourt said the other day, um, we are so aggressively trained to be obedient at the expense of knowing or learning who we are. Learning who we are. And that's why we can't lead, because we don't know who we are. If you know who you are and what you're doing in life, and then other people might want to follow you. But if you don't know, then there's no reason anybody should follow you, because that's just the blind leading the blind, literally. You don't need uh, to be led if you know who you are. This is this is, I think, the big problem with our civilization is most people don't know who they are. And I would layer on top of that the whole Jungian archetypes that you've heard of that appear in Marvel comics and in all kinds of ways where uh, these models are created. Look at all the anime and manga. I mean, I'm it's not my thing, but you can see what they're doing is they're creating Jungian archetype characters that you're going to pick one. I'm going to say I'm going to be like what's her name, one of these Japanese manga characters, because she has these characteristics in her makeup. She's very, very compassionate. She loves puppies. She is she wants to be a nurse. And whatever the half dozen or dozen or so characteristics that are packed into these characters that they sell you, if you watch these uh, or read these books. You walk through a bookstore and you'll see two or three racks of these things, the Japanese books with characters on them, and the kids buy them because they're getting addicted to these archetypes that are created, so that instead of becoming yourself, you don't know who you are. So you fall into one of the characters that they've set out in front of you. As children, you don't know better. You're looking for role models. Well, your role model turns out to be a manga character. And then, of course, you end up having to get a career and having to get a mortgage. And then you are on the treadmill forever. And that's another reason you don't know who you are, because you don't have time to figure out who you are. So it's a great blessing to me to have arrived at this, you know, point in life. I'm 70 years old this year. It's remarkable. It blows me away. I can't believe it. And I've had a lot of health problems, but I'm feeling really good right now. I'm doing good. I don't have any pain, and my my outlook is excellent. I love to see the empire getting, you know, beaten around. Have you guys been watching the characters at the World Economic Forum? Hey, Brightmore. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The cartoons are not there just to entertain. The cartoons are there to draw persons into a certain, you know, personality type. And with separation of children from the parents, then it gives you know, the hidden psychological masters of the universe the power to form the characters and personalities of children. It's a very, very Fabian idea. All those bisexual men sitting around smoking cigars, thinking up how to control children without the necessity of motherhood. Isn't that awful? But that's where they're taking it. They don't want mothers messing around with the kids' brains and giving them the mother's idea of morality. No, they want to be able to form the character themselves. Sorry, mothers, you're not going to be important in the new world order. Yeah, I saw that too. On Twitter, there's a lot of reporting of a company called Rebel News, and they are getting right up in people's faces. They got Schwab, they got um, uh, the Pfizer guy, uh, and a few more, and they're very, very, very technically good. And they go at them with more than one person, so they'll have like one person go and ask a provocative question, and you know, how do you feel about um, the participants flying in here on private jets? Isn't that against your principles? They put a microphone in Greta Thunberg's face and said, "Isn't that against your principles?" She says nothing, keeps walking. Eventually, she starts to giggle. But the one person wasn't enough. They had three of them that they were apparently different, but I think they were working together to make sure that they had somebody on the right, somebody on the left, somebody sticking a mic in their face, and it's worth looking at. But what really impressed me is when you see Tony Blair, you see Klaus Schwab, you see Ursula von der Leyen with lines, the lines in the face and the crow feet, and this is like, she's got this blonde hair of a 20-year-old, but she has the face of a grandmother. And these old white people are starting to look really bad, especially the 80-something-year-olds, you know? I'm going to keep that in mind. If I make it into my 80s, I'm going to say, you know what? We shouldn't be the front people anymore because we're starting to show, it's like driving on tires that are starting to get a little sketchy. People notice. Look. Did you see him, John's tires there? He probably needs to get some new ones. Um, and the makeup stops working after a while, doesn't it? Well, I think they are living in this state of mind that I was starting to talk about yesterday in my minefields about the Jesuit idea, the Jesuit state of mind, where at least as I understand it, and I'm no great expert, but as I've read in many different places, they want you to be so obedient that you will believe something now that is false. You will be able to change your mind and say that it is true. And yeah, poor Greta, she got busted, didn't she? But the idea of believing just because you are told it that 2 plus 2 equals 5. And if you're, superior general in the Jesuit, armies, and they are an army, at least that's what Napoleon says. They were a military organization, not a religious one. That you have to obey and you have to believe. Yes. Oh, absolutely. I believe 2 plus 2 is 5. Yes, sir. And somehow you have to internalize that. Another example is the snow is black. They want you to believe that snow is black. Well, you know it's not black, but they no. If we tell you it's black. Well, I think that's kind of the what happened to Al Gore is that he became so convinced, so believing in this global warming thing in his own heart, even though it's obvious it's a lie. But he internalized it, like you know, I know, I know that this global warming is gonna, the oceans will boil, you know, billions will die. Um, the crazy wind will, the everything that's happening now is because we have not yet signed up with the climate change agenda. And he believes it. And he's so angry that he can't convince anybody else. And that turns him into a laughing stock because he is a big joke at this point, a big fat joke. And to see him turning red because he's so angry, oh man, it just tells me that you have internalized this lie. And I think Klaus Schwab is a victim of the same type of psychological manipulation that he believes, that the future of the world is this technocracy. And there's nothing anybody can do to stop it. And not only that, it's going to be wonderful because we're all going to have this great brains hitched up to the great big computers of the 21st century, and we're going to be able to know everything and see everything and be everywhere, and all from the comfort of our little cubicle that we'll be hooked up to so that they could monitor all of our vitals and, tweak us if they feel we need tweaking, because we will, of course, be turned into one of those avatars, you remember the movie Avatar, right? And then they've got a sequel, I think. And the idea is that you're this guy is a soldier who loses his legs in a real war, and so they put him into this kind of digital world with these blue people that look like kind of like semi-human, semi-dinosaurs, and they have these interesting fights and wars, and but they get to fly around on pterodactyls and things, but it's all digital, it's all computer image, and somehow this guy has adopted in his mind the persona of this person in that unreal world. And that is an example of what I think they want us to do. Or the movie The Matrix is a similar idea where you don't know what's a real scenario because they've created this digital one that is so believable. And so you'll just be a test subject if they have their way. Because this is satanic. This is deeply, deeply anti-human. Climate is not changing. Well, climate always changes. I think that's part of the definition of the word. Garden Girl, Core, and Carrie are invested. They're just promoting their financial interests. The Swiss Guard is providing security. Yeah, I agree with all that. And yes, they are. They're invested in it both financially as well as mentally, I think. Brightmore says the magnetic poles are shifting. Yeah, I watched this guy for a while a few years ago. Dutch Sense, Dutchsinse. Um, is he the one that talks about the pole shifting? Anyway, you can see where it's marked on the magnetic pole, okay, which will move, from further away from the North Pole or toward it or into Canada or over towards Russia. I don't know. I haven't paid attention lately, but there's an awful lot of talk about how at some point um, the magnetic poles, just because of the nature of the way that they are and they shift, they could easily flip so that the whole polarity turns upside down. Uh, That won't change where the Earth is, but the magnetic field lines will go in the opposite directions. And this may cause all kinds of craziness. It may be an Armageddon. I don't know. But I don't see it as any type of clear and present danger to worry about. My opinion is, I think if this happens. If I remember what I read, it was like 200,000 years, since the last one. And when it gets to those numbers that big, I just kind of go back and say, just a second now, what are the odds that I happen to be living in the very, very year that this 200,000 year event is going to happen? I don't know about that. I'm not too worried about the magnetic pole shifting, but it is one of those things that you can jump into the rabbit hole, and I did for a couple of years following um, him and somebody else. Can't remember. Hello, Jason. And yep, solar cycle. That's what I say. You want to know what the climate's going to change to? The main indication is the sun. What's going on at the sun? Yeah, Laura, that's who it is. Dutch Sense. I think it's Sinse though, if people are looking for him. And he does the great graphs of seismic activity, which volcanic activity. I think that's the main thing to get out of his channel. You know the Ring of Fire, which is they call the ring around the Pacific Ocean. That it's all these volcanic. Uh, it's all volcanic, and so it's like a ring. And if certain circumstances happen, maybe a tectonic shift or some weather event or something happens, then these things could all pop off, and that would be a major climactic climate change. Yeah, yeah, predicting quakes. That's what he does. Yeah, it happens. It's a shame. Well, I guess 6 years ago, you know, I was I was coming along as a professional opera singer. I, was in Europe. I was speaking to agents. I People told me I could work, and I was really excited about it. And that's when I got the cancer. And after I started recovering from the cancer, which it took my energy, I couldn't drive places, and anyway, it was a couple of years of just having to stay low energy, close to home, and do what I'm told, and take the. But I'm doing fine now. But I did go back. I sang in one opera after I recovered, but I just found that it took too much out of me. But if it weren't for the work that we're doing here on McDuff Lives and following everybody else, all the other great researchers and journalists, I'd be back doing that because I loved it. But I can't do it while we're still suffering under this regime that's heading so fast towards the totalitarianism that we were warned of in school when we were going to school as kids. You know, in my generation, totalitarianism meant communism, and but it also meant fascism, and that was what we were taught to avoid, taught not to go there. You know, we had to read Lord of the Flies, for instance, William Golding, other stuff we had to uh, in civics class, and I understand they don't even have civics class anymore, but I had, I think, 2 years of it, and we understood that, you know, freedom is based in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and the values that were asserted in those documents about freedom and human rights and who who we are as a nation. And all of this propaganda and all of these other, you know, the fear and the tactics and the uh, everything, it's all about taking us away from our legacy, our inherited rights, what we got from our forefathers, like we were saying yesterday. How can we not fight to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution that they fought and preserved and defended for us? We have to. We can't abandon it. We can't just walk away and say, well, let's just start over from scratch, because that would be another 1,000 years of serfdom. The O'Loughlin's would be back into the um, tiny little cottage with a constant need to find the next meal, you know, and so would everyone. So we have to celebrate the progress we've made and not throw out everything. We have to keep going. Oh man, you mentioned one of my favorites. This is like my horror story is that everybody, you know, that the world is taken over by these robo dogs. You know, somebody's sitting up, you know, in some government office monitoring the robo dogs as they follow you around. And if you step outside of the lines, they bark at you. Told you, you know, look out. I've got a 50 caliber machine gun on my back here. Don't forget, I'm right behind you. That's what I'm afraid of. I am afraid of the robo dogs. Again, another good point, Leslie, and that's where Isaac Asimov comes in, trying to, you know, sell us the idea of R. Daniel Olival, the partner, the robot that's the partner to the human in iRobot, and the whole idea of humanizing robots is a fantasy that's, you know, if they can sell us the idea that, oh, you can humanize a robot, then they have also sold us the idea that humans are nothing special. And yeah, we might as well be sold for parts, you know. We don't have anything of a higher nature, a spiritual value, anything, you know, you know, as Henry V said in in the Shakespeare play, you know, sell my bones, sell my bones. But, you know, to do that, you're gonna have to you're gonna have to kill me, and I'm not gonna let that happen. No. That's the thing about bullies is they think they can just push you around, and they've been able to do it to other people, so they have to be checked. It's just part of who we are. Yeah, saltwater hose. We could all be kept walking around with you know, squirt guns with those tanks, you know, of salt water. And There's got to be an answer, and I think God might be on our side. Oh, unsalted would be better. You think 49? Okay. All right, guys. Well, it's not happened yet. I haven't seen any robo dogs walking around Mystery Island. Nor do I think that the magnetic poles are going to shift today. But I do believe that people are going to be killed today in ways that are completely unnecessary, and in the service of this empire and servitors that serve it for money, and the destroyers, the the ones that don't give a damn about the future. They, are the real robo dogs. And yeah, let's get the squirt guns. Yeah, I saw that. Something similar happened to a son of Gordon Liddy in California also. That's part of it. That, they get these kids into stuff that's, well, I mean, I don't want to open that Pandora's box this late in the show, but damn disgusting, disgusting people. And somehow, parents, fathers are bringing their children into this. It's completely un-American, immoral, and makes me sick. And so, you know, that's part of who we are too. We allow that to happen. I don't think that's part of the real, true nature of who we are as Americans. We respect family. We respect motherhood, fatherhood, brotherhood, sisterhood. We respect our elders. We respect the traditions we grew up in. And we are not going to turn our children's brains into some avatar for the enjoyment and study of these false leaders at the WEF or the WHO or NATO or any other of these crazy organizations that claim to have power over the future of the world. No way. No way. Well, I've been shut down, but I'm back, and I'll keep coming back because McDuff lives is alive. If you don't believe that, well, believe it. This is a living venture to spread the goodness in a McDuff, the goodness in you, the goodness in our country, the goodness that can overcome all of the evil. So that's our message for today. Thank you all very, very, very much. Look forward to seeing you next week. And if you haven't supported our Patreon yet, go over to screamingospreys.com and punch the Patreon button. Even a dollar, if you can do a dollar a month. It's nice to have you joining in a little bit, even if you know if it's just a dollar, that's fine. But you don't have to join. I shouldn't have said anything now. I'm getting embarrassed. You guys have a great weekend.